Hello everyone, so today we are going to discuss some problems of TCS NQT Set 3. So without further ado, let's begin. So airport security officials have confiscated several items for the passenger security check. All items have been dumped into a huge box. Each item possesses a certain amount of risk, 0, 1, 2. Task here is to sort the items based on their risk level. So basically you have to sort an array of zeros and twos. So yeah, pretty standard question. So there can be two approaches. First is taking the count. You take the count of the array elements, like you take the count of 0, 1, 2, and just write 0 the count of 0 times, write 1 the count of 1 times, write 2 the count of 2 times. So pretty standard approach. Time complexity is order of n, space complexity is order of 1. Because you're using only 3 items, so space complexity is order of 1. Second approach is DNF, Dutch national flag. This is also a very standard approach for this question. So in this approach you take up a low, high and mid. So low basically represents the elements of 0, mid represents 1, high represents 2, just like a Dutch national flag which has 3 uh, flag colors. So basically what you have to do is there can be 3 cases. You always check for mid. Mid is initialized to 0, low is also initialized to 0, while high is initialized to the size minus 1. So basically if your array at mid is 1, it means that since mid represents 1, you have already achieved your target, so you're essentially gonna do mid plus plus. If it's not that case, if it's like this, if a of mid is 0, it means you need to swap the element at mid with the element at low, because low represents 0. So basically what you're doing is you will be swapping a of mid and a of low. So let me write it down. Swap a of low with a of mid, and since you have added an element at the start of the array, you'll have to increment low because you have already achieved the beginning of the array, and you have also need to increase mid because the size of the search space has increased. Because let's say you had some 0 here, some 0 here, and 1 here. Your mid is pointing towards here, while your low is pointing towards this space. So what you need to do is you need to swap both of them. After you swap both of them, your array looks something like this. Your mid element will point to the next element, while low will point to this 0. But this 0 is already redundant because we don't need to use this 0. We need to add zeros to spaces that are not currently 0 or something like that, because this space is already utilized. You need to also increase low, you need to increase mid as well, because you need to consider the next element. So yeah, pretty self-explanatory. So now let's talk about the third case. The third case is when a of mid is 2. In this case what you do is you swap a of high with a of mid. Then you don't touch mid because mid might contain a new element that might have arrived from a of I. It might contain 1, 0 or 2, 1 or 0 or 2 even, depending upon the need. So yeah, you don't change the mid while you change high, because high is changed because at the end you will get 2, so you don't need to consider this. You need to consider the next element for this. So yeah, pretty good approach. This is a very easy approach, so I won't be talking about this one. I'll be talking about DNF only in my code. So yeah, there, I've already taken the input, and without further ado, let's write the code. I've also taken up the initial values for these, while mid is less than equal to high. If mid exceeds high, yeah, we have already completed our task. We'll check if a of mid is 1. If it is, then mid plus plus. Else if a of mid is 0. If it is, then we just swap the current values of low and mid, and let's add a post increment operator so that the values will be updated after these operations are concluded. After this, we'll be swapping a of high minus minus with a of mid, post decrement operator. So yeah, let's just print the size, print the array. It should give a good result. It's getting pretty straightforward result. So yeah, this is the DNF algorithm, and this problem is very easy. Nothing crazy going on over here. So now let's move on to the next problem. Next problem is also a very simple one. So basically you are given an integer array of size n. Your task is to count the count of elements whose value is greater than all of its prior elements. Okay. So the first element of the array should be considered in the count of the result. Okay. As 7 is the first element, it will consider its own result, like 7 is greater than 7 itself. 8 and 9 are also elements that are greater than all of their previous elements, like 8 is greater than 7 and 9 is greater than any of the element. Since total of 3 elements are present that meet the condition, the output is 3. So yeah, pretty straightforward question. Let's talk about another test case. 5 3 4 5 8 9. 5 3 4 5 8 9. So 9 and 8 are pretty standard answers. The output for this is 5. Let's discuss. 5 is also considered as a possible solution here. And okay, let me check if these, okay, 5 represents the size of the array, so 5 is not. 3 is a possible answer. 4 is also a possible answer because 4 is greater than every element present before it. Greater than or equal to, in this case, greater than in this case. 5 is also a considerable answer because 5 is also greater than every element before it. So basically we have to just find the maximum, the previous maximum. If my current element is greater than the previous maximum, I'll be incrementing my solution answer. So yeah, pretty straightforward question. Let's take an input like we have taken it before. So and I0, I less than n, I plus plus. Let's look at the constraints. Air of I is from 1, so we can take current maximum as 0 only. We'll be checking if A of I is greater than the maximum value. If it is, then we'll be incrementing our count. We'll be updating our maximum element. At the end, we'll be printing our count. So let's take up the example. 5 5 7 4 8 2 9. 7 4 8 2 9. It's giving 3. Now let's take up that example. 3 4 5 8 9, which is an increasing sequence. Its answer will be 5. Yeah, so pretty straightforward question. You can also skip doing this and use only a variable to take an input here. So yeah, nothing crazy going on over here as well. So pretty standard question. You might have done it in your coursework. So yeah, so this concludes this set. Wishing you all the best.